You beautiful bastards, hope you've had a fantastic Thursday. Welcome back to the DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're to talk about today is why Millie Bobby Brown is in the news. Now Millie, if you don't know, is a 14-year-old actress best known for her role in Stranger Things. And like many stars of her generation, she is hyper involved on her social media, massive on it on Instagram. She has almost 17 million followers. But unfortunately, Millie is in the news today for kind of social media gone wrong. Back in November, people began posting fake stories about interactions they said they had with Millie, many of them saying that she was being racist or homophobic. Some people attributing a user by the name of Kelsey Fiona for starting all of this, accusing Brown of removing her hijab, saying, "I saw Millie Bobby Brown in the airport and asked for a pic, and she said, 'Only if you remove the hijab.' And I said, 'It's my faith,' and she aggressively pulled it off my head and stamped on it." To that, a user pointed out, "Well, you don't even have a hijab in your profile," to which she said, "Because she ripped it off." And that story, of course, was an obvious fake. That Twitter account was actually suspended. And what soon followed after this was the hashtag #TakeDownMillieBobbyBrown. And when you look through the hashtag, you ended up finding some people that were just kind of memeing, making jokes like, "Oh, wouldn't this be ridiculous?" But then also what appeared to be a ton of trolls actually trying to mislead the public and make it seem like Millie was doing horrible stuff. But of course, because this is the internet, there is a new target, a new thing every single day. The popularity of these posts did die off, but then at the beginning of June, which is LGBT Pride Month, it began popping up again. And in addition to the uptick of fake stories about this 14-year-old girl, there were also a number of fake pictures. People taking real selfies she posted, but then photoshopping in fake homophobic and racist captions. And the reason so many people have been talking about this in the past 24 hours is that Millie Bobby Brown deleted her Twitter because of all of this. Now, as far as why the account was actually deleted, I do not know. I do feel like it's probably a temporary move. Her Instagram account is still live, but she has since disabled comments. And personally, I find it to be a pretty smart move, whether it was her manager, her family, whoever, because it's essentially issuing a statement without making a statement. And it got the story coverage, it clears her name, and she doesn't have to comment on it, which is always a really big issue for anyone with any audience whatsoever. People can fake stuff very easily in 5 to 10 seconds. Anyone can just throw out a fake claim. And as a person with an audience, no matter how ridiculous that claim is, you still have to wonder, should I address this? Because if you address one thing, you will be expected to address everything. Now, as far as the fake stories and the hashtag and kind of the memeing of this, it's been very interesting to see the reaction. Some obviously very angry about it. One user writing, "Fuck each and every one for sharing memes and making up fake accusations, bullying a 14-year-old. Wow, you must all be very proud of yourself." Whereas others claim, no, it's not harassment, it's an obvious joke, it's sarcastic, it's a meme. As one user argued, the reason it's so funny is because we know Millie would never do anything like that. Why are her fans so angry? Only an idiot would actually believe these stories. But also the counter to that point is there are a ton of people that are not familiar with her. If someone doesn't know her that well, or they are not aware of this meme, they just see these screenshots that to them seem real, they are going to believe it. I mean, if you've watched this show for a while, I mean, think about how many times we've talked about, whether it be just kind of everyday people on Facebook, Twitter, wherever, being tricked by a fake photo or a fake story or actual news outlets. And so I 100% understand why people would go, well, no, that's not a meme, that's just slander and libel. And even with the memeing defense, I do have to personally say, well, while I am very protective of allowing people to kind of just fuck around on the internet, there is something disgusting about the target of this being a 14-year-old. And I mean, in general, it's very easy to look at celebrities and not consider them real people initially, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're talking about a kid. But that said, that's the story, then my opinion, and I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts on this? Is it disgusting, or no, it's a playful meme thing? I'd love to know your thoughts and why in those comments down below. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome, brought to you by Upton. You may or may not have noticed, but over the past 3 months, I've really decided to focus on my health. I was 245 pounds as of this morning. I'm 210 and still on my way to getting where I want to be. And so if you've been looking for something like this, you've been looking for the motivation, a kick in the ass to kind of jump on the train to better yourself or get you in a place where you're happier with yourself, go to DeFrancofit.com. It'll bring you to a special sign-up page. You will get a 30-day free trial, and because you signed up either through that link or using code PHIL, they will give you 40% off. And actually, whether you join in on this with me or not, just remember that at any moment, that could be your first day. First day on your path to your new normal. And the first bit of awesome today is we had Zach Galifianakis giving us some more Between Two Ferns awesome, this time with Cardi B and Jerry Seinfeld. Then we had Giselle doing Vogue's 73 Questions series. We had Life Knockin' asking what would happen if you were allergic to water. We also got the trailer for Unfriended Dark Web. We had Natalie Portman on Hot Ones. And remember, if you want to see the full versions of everything, I just shared the secret link of the day. Anything at all. Links, as always, are in the description down below. And then we have another segment of Don't Be Stupid, Stupid. And this story comes to us from Minnesota thanks to 19-year-old Caitlin Strom. She was attending the Woodstock Country Music Festival. One thing led to another, and then this happened to Caitlin. Her head got stuck in a tailpipe and they had to use a power saw to get her out. Now you may be wondering to yourself, how the hell does that happen to someone? Nothing seems to add up. But the flaw in your thinking is you are not giving stupid enough credit. Stupid truly makes all things possible, and as Caitlin explained, she saw this Chevy Silverado with a large tailpipe, and she said, "We were just all having fun, and I saw this big exhaust pipe, and I was like, hey, my head could probably fit in that." And in her defense, it did, but unfortunately too well. And that's why now millions of people, and I guess with this show another million, have seen you make what I hope is the stupidest choice you have made in your life. And for those worried about Caitlin, she is fine, although, and this is shocking because you would never think it would be involved here, she was reportedly cited for underage drinking by the sheriff's office. And I will say, seemingly, Caitlin has taken all of the mean comments that have come from this video in stride, but I can't help but smile because essentially the way the story ends is as far as what lessons Caitlin said that she has learned from all of this. It's, quote, "to not stick my head in a tailpipe," which I appreciate. This should truly be a learning lesson kind of story. Then we had guest co-founder Paul Marciano and model Kate Upton in the news together. You might remember back in February, Kate Upton came out with allegations against Marciano, claiming he forcibly grabbed her breasts, kissing her against her will, grabbing her thighs and arms to pull her closer so he could smell her. That story was also corroborated by photographer Yu Tsai, and it also wasn't the first set of allegations against Marciano. Guests had reportedly investigated him for inappropriate behavior towards two models back in November of 2017. And as of February, when Upton's claims came out, they had not made a final determination around those initial allegations. But after Upton, the company started another internal investigation. And the big update this week is that Paul Marciano has now resigned. This after a special committee had completed their investigation on him. That committee saying they were unable to corroborate a number of the claims, saying in some cases no conclusion could be reached because the individuals either declined to be interviewed or provided insufficient information to the investigators. Also adding in other cases, the investigation found that credible accounts were given by both sides. And ultimately, the investigation said that in some occasions, Marciano exercised poor judgment in his communications with models and photographers and in placing himself in situations in which plausible allegations of improper conduct could and did arise. And as far as the number of people involved in claims and allegations that were able to be corroborated, it appears that that number is at least 5. And I say that because guests acknowledged that Marciano and the company had reached non-confidential settlements totaling $500,000 with 5 of those who made allegations. But as of right now, those people have not been named. And as far as what happens next, while Marciano has stepped down, he is still technically with the company until January of next year. And while he will eventually be gone, he will continue to be paid until he leaves. And what I'm really left with this story is I want to know the full accounts from both sides, because Upton's claims are pretty serious and the investigation seems to dismiss any claim as Marciano making a poor judgment in communication and putting himself into situations where he could be accused. There's stuff that doesn't seem to line up there. Then we had New York Attorney General Barbara Underwood filing a lawsuit against President Trump, Don Jr., Eric Trump, Ivanka, and the Donald J. Trump Foundation. The suit alleging what they call a pattern of illegal conduct for over a decade that Underwood says includes extensive political coordination with a Trump presidential campaign. Underwood also states that there were repeated and willful self-dealing transactions to benefit Mr. Trump's personal and business interests, and that the foundation violated basic legal obligations for nonprofit foundations. And the lawsuit is seeking a few things: $2.8 million in restitution. It aims to ultimately dissolve the foundation. It hopes to bar President Trump from serving as a director on a nonprofit group in New York for 10 years. And finally, to bar Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka from directing nonprofits for 1 year. And as far as Trump's children's involvement, they are all listed as board members, although reportedly the foundation's board has not met since 1999. And so AG Underwood is stating that the president has made all of the decisions related to the foundation, adding, as our investigation reveals, the Trump Foundation was little more than a checkbook for payments from Mr. Trump or his businesses to nonprofits, regardless of their purpose or legality, stating, "This is not how private foundations should function, and my office intends to hold the foundation and its directors accountable for its misuse of charitable assets." Along with this move, Underwood has also sent referral letters about these allegations to the IRS and FEC, so they may move on this as well. And so of course the question here becomes, well, what are these questionable payments? And here some of the payments cited by Underwood include a $158,000 payment to settle claims related to a golf hole-in-one tournament at Trump National Golf Club, the use of $10,000 at a charity auction to buy a painting of Trump that was later displayed in one of his properties, as well as the lawsuit noting that Trump personally directed the foundation to draw $100,000 for a settlement involving Mar-a-Lago. The lawsuit even including what appears to be a handwritten note by President Trump with that order. And Underwood's office also says that this bled into the election, saying the foundation illegally provided extensive support to his 2016 presidential campaign by using the Trump Foundation's name and funds it raised from the public to promote his campaign. And here the lawsuit specifically notes that there were 5 grants of $100,000 each awarded by the foundation to groups in Iowa only days before the 2016 presidential caucus in the state. And as far as what is the other side of this, we looked at President Trump's response today. Trump taking to Twitter to condemn this lawsuit, and while he did not reference Underwood in his tweets, he did comment on Eric Schneiderman. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because we talked about his scandal scandal and resignation on this show earlier this year. He's the now former New York Attorney General who resigned after there were reports published that he was physically violent with women he had past relationships with. And so we had Trump tweeting, "The sleazy New York Democrats and their now disgraced and run out of town AG Eric Schneiderman are doing everything they can to sue me on a foundation that took in $18,800,000 and gave out to charity more money than it took in, $19,200,000. I won't settle this case." Schneiderman, who ran the Clinton campaign in New York, never had the guts to bring this ridiculous case, which lingered in their office for almost 2 years. Now he resigned his office in disgrace, and his disciples brought it when we would not settle. Additionally, a spokesman for the foundation also released a statement, hitting that same note that they gave out more than they brought in, adding that the foundation has $1.7 million remaining and that they're being held hostage by the New York AG, and adding this is unconscionable, particularly because the foundation previously announced its intention to dissolve more than a year and a half ago. But to these responses, critics have hit back, saying these are not addressing the claims in the lawsuit. Not the grants, not the Trump note about the $100,000 settlement, not any of the other points. And as far as what happens from here, it's ultimately another situation of we'll have to wait and see. Yes, we do have Donald Trump saying that he will not settle, but he has also said that in the past about other situations. The main one that comes to mind is the Trump University lawsuit where he said he wouldn't settle, but then did, and then gave an explanation of why he did. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And that's actually where we're gonna end today's show. And of course, remember, this is the Daily Philip DeFranco Show. Whether it's the last story, the first one, anything in between, I'd love to know your thoughts today in those comments down below. And with that, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.